I am a stepfather who deeply loves his stepdaughter, until I discover she is about to reunite with her biological father, the man who betrayed her and her mother twice. I was supposed to be the one walking her down the aisle, but suddenly, I became the forgotten past. Welcome to the Love and Betrayed Love channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Eric, where have you been? Why didn't you attend my wedding rehearsal? Mom tried calling you 6 times. She's very angry with you really, and where is your mother? She just left with my father. Well, my biological father went to his motel. Eyes darted away from me as she said that, and I noticed it. I kept doing what I was doing before my stepdaughter arrived, taking my certificate of appreciation from the hallway wall. What are you doing? Eric, Mom cleaned all of these frames around 6 weeks ago. I barely paid attention to her as I carried the frame certificate to the kitchen. Emma followed me and watched as I wrapped it in bubble wrap before placing it in an already packed box. She turned around the skirt of her dress, swirling around her for a moment. This website took me back to one of the hundreds of dance recitals I attended as a child. She was now hurrying back to the living room rather than dancing for Daddy. I followed her immediately, carrying the packed box. Mouth opened and closed like a goldfish. She had just noticed that all of my wall decorations, as well as my souvenirs on the shelves, had vanished, and if she checked all of my clothes and tools in the garage, I walked out the front door and was packing the box into the back seat of my car. When I felt Emma follow me and stand watching, she spoke quietly, her voice trembling from the shock of what she saw. She had never considered this event before. Are you leaving us? Yes, you finally noticed I've been moving out for 4 days, but neither your mother nor you noticed. This should tell you something, shouldn't it? I am sorry, Dad. I am sorry, Eric, I've been slightly preoccupied with the wedding. Will you come? No, I won't. I thought my absence from tonight's rehearsal would tell you that. But why, Dad? Oh, I am Dad again. Isn't it wonderful? You stopped calling me that 3 weeks ago. Remember? Emma flinched and wrapped her arms around herself, triggering my old instincts. You should go back inside. It's cold outside. I'll call Mom first. You can try, but I'm guessing her phone will be off. I returned home to the living room and sat on the couch. Emma was clearly talking on the phone, leaving a voicemail for Mom to call her right away, and then she plopped into one of the soft chairs. It appeared to swallow her small frame. I waited for her to gather her thoughts and begin the conversation based on the expression on her face. I suppose she didn't know where to begin. Finally, why don't you attend my wedding? You see, you've already got the clues. No, my stepdaughter's confused expression revealed that the extreme selfishness that many brides exhibit had completely blinded her. This saddens me. I had not expected her to be so self-centered. I mentally shook myself. I was eager to move on. I didn't have time for this, so I took control of the conversation. Emma, I have loved you since I met you as a chubby, 2-year-old with perpetually dirty fingers. I still love you and, depending on how things go, I may love you forever. I paused to consider the best way to proceed. Then I decided to use the format I used in the letter I kept in my pocket to inform Emma and her mother that I was leaving when I met your mother. She had recently been abandoned by your biological father. We've already told you this story several times. He was a drunk, and when your mother caught him with another woman for the 2nd time, she threatened to leave him unless you changed. Instead, he got up and left both of you. He abandoned you. I paused to allow Emma to say something. She did not, just stared at me. Shortly after your mother lost her home because she couldn't afford the rent, we met, fell in love, married and moved into this house with my 2 sons, James and Daniel. I felt compelled to assist you because our previous residents had vanished anyway. I digress. I loved both your mother and you. I loved you. Like you were my own daughter, just as I loved my biological children. I never hesitated to accept responsibility for your upbringing. I thought I'd lost it all a month ago. Emma must have noticed the tremor in my voice during the final sentence. It transported her back from wherever she had been. You were not dead. You were the best father a daughter could have. Many of my friends envied me. They couldn't believe it. When I told them you were only my stepfather. She stopped, covering her mouth with her hand slightly shaken by what she had just said. Within about 2 seconds, she realized what had happened to me in the previous month. I continued my story. I like the guy you chose as your life partner, and he was the most proud person in the world. You asked me to walk you down the aisle. I paused again to see where this conversation would go in her head. I could clearly see when the majority of it hit her. She averted her gaze again. Yes, Emma, you did not withdraw your invitation for me to walk you down the aisle, but then your biological father came back into the picture and I was out. He's entirely yours in your and your mother's thoughts and conversations. I am yesterday's hero. Did you know she was so inattentive that she didn't realize I hadn't bought the suit for tomorrow, even though she had asked me to? I watched again as Emma debated which of the issues I raised to address first. I saw the horror on her face when she realized she had forgotten to ask me, the only father she had known until last month, to accompany her on her most important day. I expected to hear an apology for this, as well as her objections. I was wrong. Instead, she confirmed her superficiality by attempting to justify everything. Yes, Eric, you've met my biological father. Are you more important to me than my life? You have to understand that he only came back into my life last month when he found out I was getting married, and it was amazing with his flashiness and how he spoils me by buying me everything I look at twice. He is just so. What can I say? Both of us, Mom too. I guess I assumed he'd walk me down the aisle. I apologize, I forgot. I'd already asked you. It's been like a whirlwind since he returned, which took you off your feet, didn't it? Yes, this is exactly what he did, admit it. He just exudes charisma. I recently told my mother that she stopped when she realized what she was about to say, and to whom her face was always like a shallow pond, with the slightest breeze ruffling its surface. A new gust of wind followed shortly after. Now was no exception. Emotion after emotion flashed across her face, as I realized how completely she had ignored me for the past month. I watched her process this. I believe I witnessed the exact moment when she realized her mother had been just as bad for the previous month. All I had heard in my house was that JN did this or said that I tried to show them how angry I was about everything, but nothing was noticed. They were both under Jay's spell. Yes, I noticed his charisma too. I understood why he was such a successful salesman. Unlike my wife and stepdaughter, did not succumb to his influence. They were completely blind when I pointed out his broken promises 3 times. The final straw came 4 days ago when I found out I wouldn't be walking Sammy down the aisle. This revelation came only after I overheard them discussing who would be where in the church. My name was not even mentioned. Instead of showing up and hoping for a seat in the front pew, I began packing my belongings. I decided to gradually begin preparing Emma so that future revelations would not surprise her. Shocker, do you realize he's still a lying cheat? You realize he's the same scumbag who abandoned you and your mother 20 years ago. Right. He abandoned you both back then, and as soon as he has what he wants this time, I'm leaving you again. Oh, Dad, don't be so bitter, Eric. Yes, I apologize. I forgot to mention that my biological father would walk me down the aisle. It's my fault, not his. You can be angry at him and call him a variety of derogatory names. What proof do you have that he is still a womanizer? I considered my response once more. I was concerned about how my next question would be answered. I knew my 20-year marriage was over. Have I also lost my daughter? So in for a penny, in for a pound, as they used to say. Where is your mother? I didn't have to hold my breath. Very long eyes left mine for a long moment, then darted back and forth as she pondered how deep my question went. Had I purposefully linked my question about why I thought her biological father was still cheating to where her mother was? Without a doubt, Emma was aware that the execution had been left. Whether we end our 20-year relationship in a pile of lies or keep the memories of mutual respect that we can still hold on to, I need to tell you something. This morning I discovered protection in your mother's purse, what without a doubt for tonight. I had a vasectomy before meeting her, so they were obviously not for me, and I know you use birth control pills, so they were not for you. I'm glad the package was unopened, which means she hasn't slept with him yet, but buying the entire pack 24 hours before his arrival suggests intent, doesn't it? I can tell by your expression that this news does not surprise you, so I can only conclude that you are complicit in your mother's betrayal of me and our wedding vow by sleeping with that slippery little bastard. Do you think it's romantic that, like in a fairy tale, your parents are reconciling and you can play happy families starting married life with a Porsche in the driveway rather than a Nissan I purchased you? Emma opened her mouth. In response, I raised my hand to stop her and not bother forget it. I said the answer does not matter. The fact that you knew but chose not to tell me ends our relationship right now. I stood up, approached her, helped her to her feet and hugged her. I suppressed all of my emotions that I hadn't expressed in months. I spoke my final words to her. I loved you so much that I left her life looking back through the door. I saw complete devastation on her beautiful face. As she watched me leave, tears rolled down her cheeks as she swallowed and gasped. She desperately tried to locate her phone. I assumed this was in the desperate hope that her mother had not turned away from her, that her mother had not yet physically committed adultery, and that her mother could use this as an excuse to persuade me to forgive her. Emma also hoped that she would not lose her other father, who had been desperately crying out for the past month that his wife had stopped loving him and had gone completely unnoticed. Meanwhile, she had fallen for the smooth-talking salesman and his charming story. I shrugged, unsure whether my wife had physically crossed the line. The protection I came across that morning was sufficient for me. Initially, I planned to move out temporarily to demonstrate my dissatisfaction with the events of the previous month. The morning's discovery revealed that I had underestimated the severity of the situation, which pushed me to agree. After several painful hours of deciding that moving out was necessary, I examined my conscience. It agreed with me. I jumped into the car and drove away. Epilogue. Some of the following is fact, while others are rumors. The story would be incomplete without both. On the day of rehearsal, I spent some time trying to figure out which motel the newly reappeared father was staying. In my motivation, I wanted to witness my wife's infidelity firsthand, in order to harden my heart and do what was necessary. My efforts were in vain. Instead, I opted for Plan B. After leaving Emma, I parked on the street near my house and turned off the lights. Sure enough, less than a minute later my former daughter drove by in tears. A herd of elephants may have followed her. Unnoticed, she drove straight to a motel and rushed into a specific room. I followed her closely with my trusty old SLR camera and zoom lens. SS mother opened the door after hearing her cries. I was mentally prepared. At least I thought I was, given the strange scene that greeted me. What bothered me wasn't Sophia's hastily wrapped motel robe and tousled hair or her ex-husband standing behind her in boxes. No, what struck me was the panicked expression on her face when Emma spoke. I'd shielded her from such emotions for 20 years. It is a habit. After Emma was led into the room and the door was closed, I threw the camera in the passenger seat, turned off my phone and drove away into the night. My knowledge of what happened immediately after comes from a variety of sources. The wedding did take place the following day, but at 6:00 p.m. instead of the scheduled 10:00 a.m. First they had to locate the bride's mother. She spent the night desperately looking for me before falling asleep exhausted. Then precious time was spent looking for the bride's biological father, who had vanished. As I told Emma, once he got his way he left. I was really curious about his motivation for all of this. My research revealed that he and his second wife never had children. Perhaps he wanted to walk his child down the aisle. Some people just enjoy collecting life experiences. I suppose he saw Sophia as still an attractive woman and wanted her. Perhaps it was just an ego trip. As a self-centered individual, he simply turned on the charm and pursued her until she gave it in. She left when things became serious, just as I had warned her he would. It could have been the most expensive sex of his life before he could return home. Several photos were delivered to his wife's mailbox. she left him in accordance with their prenuptial agreement. In the end, she ran her father's company without him. There were rumors that a week or so later she was found badly beaten in an alley. It was said that his father-in-law was always concerned about his only daughter and disliked scum by the time the wedding party realized he had left. The vicar had graciously rescheduled the ceremony for 6:00 p.m. I'll never know when Sophia realized that all of the seams on the dress she planned to wear to the event had been torn. It would have crumbled in her hands, just as our marriage had. Because of her actions, I ignored Sophia and Sai's communications. They flooded my voicemail with requests to call back, but the bridge had been truly burned. Sophia, as expected, left a lengthy message stating that she had just entered Marcus's motel room after dropping him off and they had only talked. The protection in her purse was meant to be a novelty. At the front desk, 2 photos emailed to me clearly demonstrated that this was a lie. In the first, she stood in the motel doorway, revealing her left breast under a hastily tied robe. The second was an enlarged version of the same photograph highlighting what appeared to be a half-dried seed covering her bangs. The simple story prompted me to request that she refrain from contacting me again in order to preserve our memories. She mostly respected this and now only occasionally sends me well wishes. According to family gossip, she has struggled to move on and is still not dating anyone. I made a small divorce settlement offer, which she gladly accepted. I stayed at my younger son's house for a while, keeping my car hidden in his garage. He and my older son also turned down calls from their stepmother. They noticed how much I was hurting. Sai's new fiancé tracked me down and I agreed to talk because I liked him. He persuaded me that Emma tried to talk her mother out of the planned rendezvous, but Marcus's spell was too strong. We still have occasional conversations. Apparently, the relationship between mother and daughter is still strained. I'll never know whether Emma blames Sophia for losing both of her fathers or if her new husband keeps his mother-in-law out of their home. I'll probably forgive her someday. My sons have forgiven her and SS husband begs me to. If the pain hadn't been so fresh, I might have been devastated by the story of Emma walking alone down the church aisle while her mother, already seated on a pew, watched exhausted from tears and still smudging her makeup. The groom couldn't remember whether there were 1 or 2 empty seats next to her in the front pew. In any case, my interest was strictly academic. Between the planned and actual weddings, he had a significant influence on Sai's actions and thoughts about her mother's mistake. Finally, he concluded that it would be beneficial if the bride who had witnessed the consequences of infidelity remembered them vividly and focused all of her energy on bringing all of the guests back for the rescheduled ceremony. However, rumors spread and it was clear that Sophia spent less than half an hour at the reception desk with accusing glances from both sides piercing her soul. I still wonder if she regretted losing me and ruining her daughter's speaci day. So what about me? I wallowed in misery for several months, completing the grieving process, but fearing that I would never trust a woman again. Is this ironic? I met the widowed mother of Daniel's wife when she arrived early to plan her daughter's wedding 12 months after my breakup. The connection was immediate and any trust issues were quickly resolved. I was one of those people who dismissed the concept of soulmates. Until I met mine, I checked myself for any unresolved FE feelings. There were practically none. Sophia started the process, which was completed. What the heck, Kapul Yaruz notices the woman. Within 4 weeks, I moved in with Belinda, knowing she was the woman I would spend my life with. Fortunately, her children welcomed me with open arms and I met Belinda today. Her daughter asked me to walk her down the aisle. Even that didn't stop the silly grin that almost always makes my face ache. Here is the next story. Lydia met up with her old classmate, Hilda, for lunch on a restaurant patio, which drew the attention of passing men. Lydia apologized for being out of touch, explaining that graduate school and her recent marriage had kept her very busy. She was nearly finished with her degree and mentioned that she was looking forward to taking a short break before beginning her job search. Hilda inquired about Lydia's married life, expressing some envy for her stable relationship with Adam. Lydia admitted that while Adam was fantastic, his focus on growing his business left little time or money for recreation. Hilda reassured her that his hard work would benefit their future and acknowledged the financial strain of attending graduate school. Lydia, feeling a lack of social excitement, admitted that she missed going out and having fun, as opposed to her classmates, who enjoyed parties and bars. Hilda, sensing something more, inquired if Lydia was interested in anyone else. Lydia revealed her attraction to Carl, a first student, who quaintly complimented her appearance and academic performance. She blushed as she admitted it. Hilda tilted her head. I doubt Adam would be pleased to hear that it's just a harmless flirtation. It means nothing. But you are correct. Adam is a bit old-fashioned about these things. That's why I won't tell him. She shifted in her chair. I can't help but remember how much fun I had before getting married. I miss dating different men and going out. You have to be careful, girlfriend. You have a wonderful husband and you do not want to risk losing him. Adam would never let you mess around, and if it did happen, I'm sure there would be plenty of women ready to console him afterwards. Yes, I understand. I honestly want to be with him and start a family. I just want to have some fun before things become too serious. She lowered her voice and leaned closer. Remember that guy I told you about? He invited me to go to Florida with him for spring break. If I could do it without Adam finding out, I would most likely say yes. She leaned back, laughing dismissively, but this is just a fantasy. It couldn't happen. Hilda sat back and looked at Lydia thoughtfully. After a brief pause, she nodded as if she had made her decision. Don't be too sure. I know one way you can get away with it. Lydia exclaimed, feeling a mix of disbelief and excitement. You are joking. How are you certain you want to risk your marriage for a week of fun? If I knew, Adam would never know why not. But you are just teasing me, Hilda. I couldn't pull off something like that there is, and it's actually quite simple. Hilda started counting with her fingers. First, make a new Gmail account with a fictitious name, like a good friend. Use this account to send Adam an anonymous email stating that his wife is having an affair. I tell him I am having an affair. That is insane. Why should I do that? Hilda carried on calmly. You could say Lydia is having an affair with someone Adam doesn't know and can't easily track down. What is the point of that? It would cause him to focus on the phony affair rather than your grad school guy. But Adam would become suspicious of me exactly. However, if he can't find any evidence of the person you're allegedly having an affair with, he'll have to confront you and ask what's going on, but I don't want him to become suspicious of me. No, you don't. When he confronts, you act upset about his lack of trust. You become so enraged that you call a timeout in marriage. Doesn't your mother live in Florida? The abrupt change caught Lydia off guard. Yes, why great. While you're angry, tell Adam you're going to Florida for spring break to stay with your mother and figure things out while he searches for the mystery man. You will be in Florida with Carl having a fling. But how do I explain this to my mother? Hilda rolled her eyes. You do not have to. Actually, you don't have to see her while you're there. But what happens if Adam calls her? Tell him not to speak. You need to take a complete break from him to work things out. He should not contact you or your mother while you're away. Warn him that if he tries, you might not return at all. Lydia stared at her friend contemplating the plan. Her expression then brightened. You know, Hilda, that might actually work, but what happens when I return? That's easy. Adam will be desperately missing you by then, because he will be unable to locate the mystery man. He'll think someone has played a cruel joke on him. He will feel terrible and beg you to forgive him for not trusting. You'll forgive him and everything will be fine. You will have had your fun. You and Adam will be closer than ever. What about the mysterious man I'm supposed to be having an affair with? Should I make up a name? You could, but it would be preferable if it were a genuine person. Choose someone with whom you cannot possibly have an affair, like someone who is very old, lives far away or has died. That way. If Adam finds him, you are still safe. Hey, I think I know the perfect guy. There was this creepy professor in my first year of graduate school. I believe he left town because I never saw him again. How about that? Perfect. Lydia quickly reached across the table and squeezed her friend's hand. You are the best, Hilda. I'm really excited. I really believe this will work. She then hugged herself and shivered slightly. I cannot wait to tell Carl. Meanwhile, Adam was in the office and asked the foreman if we had heard back from the supplier about the parts we ordered. Frustrated, Adam returned to his office and sank into his swivel chair, rubbing his forehead. If those parts do not arrive soon, we will miss our deadline to deliver the prototypes. After the foreman left, Adam checked his email, hoping for good news, but instead discovered a message titled "About your wife." He hesitated before opening it. Lydia is having an affair with Professor Bellingham, and I regret to inform you of this. I thought you should know a good friend. Adam searched the university's website and local institutions for Professor Bellingham, but couldn't find anyone with that name. Frustrated, he turned to Google and found 5 names, none of which were local. He thought it was a scam, but doubt crept in. He had a thought. What if she is actually having an affair? He hadn't noticed any signs, but he'd been so preoccupied with work that he had overlooked her. I've been working nearly 70 hours per week to get the business off the ground. Doesn't she understand that I'm doing this for us? Her tuition has been rising and I've been investing any extra funds into the business. Still, I suppose I haven't paid enough attention to her feeling guilty. He began looking through his calendar to find the last time they went out together. He gave up after 3 months of searching and not finding anything. However, as his guilt increased, so did his anger. He reasoned that even if I hadn't given Lydia the attention she desired, she didn't have the right to cheat on me. We discussed the sacrifices we would have to make if we decided to start the business. She completely agreed to it back then, so she has no reason to complain now. His thoughts were interrupted when his foreman looked through the door. Hello, Adam. Good news. The parts we needed have just arrived. Thank goodness. Let's get them unpacked and delivered to the shop. Right away after the foreman dashed away, Adam took a deep breath, so that's one problem solved. He chuckled wryly. I suppose I can now spend more time worrying about my wife. Adam leaned back considering the possibility of an affair. After his online search yielded no results. If Lydia was involved with someone from the university. Perhaps the name was incorrect or not listed on the website. He discovered the university's human resources number and inquired about Professor Bellingham. The secretary checked and confirmed that there was no Professor Bellingham in the business school or any other department. When Adam inquired about the professor's previous employment, the secretary informed him that university policy required her to only confirm current faculty. Adam, frustrated, called the business school's dean but received no response. The administrator of the assistant taught me nothing new. Adam's head was pounding. I need a strong drink, he said after hanging up, but then he got an idea and picked up the phone again. Hello, Hilda, I'm Adam. Could you meet me at Maxi for a drink after work? I have a problem and could really benefit from your advice. I'd prefer not to discuss it over the phone. You can great see you at 6:00. Before leaving. He checked his email once more. There are no new messages from a good friend. When Adam arrived at Maxi's place, he noticed Hilda sitting in a quiet corner. She held a glass of white wine and a mug of his favorite draft beer in front of her. He walked over and kissed her cheek. Thank you for the beer and, most importantly, for coming tonight. I really do need to talk. After he sat down, she took a sip of her wine and stared at him. Okay, Adam, what's going on? Is there a problem with your business? Not sure where to begin. He stared at his beer for a moment before speaking. Do you know a Professor Bellingham from the university? She shook her head. Confused. Bellingham. I have never heard of him. Why? He sighed and gave her a printout of the email. I received it today. She skimmed through it, gasped and then read it again. She looked up at him sympathetically. Oh Adam, it's no surprise you didn't want to discuss this over the phone. What are your thoughts about it? I'm not sure what to think, Hilda. I cannot believe it is true, but I can't simply ignore it and hope it's nothing. I spent the entire afternoon trying to figure out who Professor Bellingham is, but I ran into dead ends at the university. I am at a loss for what to do next. I cannot afford to hire a private investigator and do not have the time to conduct my own investigation. That's why I needed to speak with. You've been an excellent friend to both Lydia and myself. What are your suggestions? She took another sip of her drink and squeezed his hand, reassuring him. What you really asking? If I believe Lydia is having an affair, I can't give you a definitive answer. On the one hand, I haven't seen or heard anything that suggests she's been unfaithful. On the other hand, I have not seen much of her lately. He appeared distressed and she continued. There are people who enjoy causing trouble, and this could be one of those situations. Perhaps you have business competitors who want to distract you with marital issues. There could be additional explanations that I haven't considered. What is clear is that you cannot simply ignore this and hope it goes away. You are a firm believer in fidelity, and any indication of a problem will bother you. If not addressed, doubt will harm your relationship with Lydia in the same way that an affair would. He looked at her with a troubled expression. I know you are correct, Hilda, but what should I do? In my opinion, you should show Lydia this email. She needs to know that someone is accusing her of being unfaithful, and she deserves the opportunity to explain. After all, if someone made such an accusation against you, wouldn't you want to know? He sat in silence for a moment before nodding. Your call. If I don't tell Lydia about this, it will affect how I behave around her. Finally, it will drive us apart. Just as if she were cheating on me, he got up and hugged. Hilda, thank you for helping me think this through. I'm not sure what I would do without you, Adam. You already know how much I care about both of you. If there is anything I can do to help, please let me know. He nodded gratefully and followed Hilda out the door, watching him go. Lydia was there to greet him when he arrived home. Where have you been, Adam? I called, but you did not answer. He did not answer her question. Instead, he took her hand and guided her to the couch. I need to show you something, Lydia. It's really upsetting me. She sat down next to him, appearing nervous. He handed her the printout. I received this in an email today. Can you tell me something about it? She quickly read it and, to his surprise, stood up and began shouting. Do you think I am cheating on you? I cannot believe this. You got a crappy accusation from an anonymous friend and now you're accusing me of cheating. No, honey, I'm not accusing you of anything. If you weren't accusing me, why did you show me this terrible lie? She took the printout, crumpled it and threw it at him. This feels like a knife to my heart. You believe a coward who refuses to sign his name is more trustworthy than you. Trust me. She grabbed her purse and stormed out the front door. I cannot even look at you right now. I'm going out and don't know when I'll return. She slammed the door as she exited. Moments later he heard her car's engine roar and tires screech as she drove away. Oh damn, I didn't expect that. I'm worse off now than before. He groaned. He sank back onto the couch, holding his head in his hands as he sat at. Adam's initial thoughts were defensive. Why did she respond so strongly? I did not accuse her. I've just shown her what someone else said, but he knew the answer before he had finished his thought. If Lydia had given him that note, he would have reacted the same way. But what was I supposed to do? Pretend that everything is fine. Hilda was correct. I couldn't simply ignore the email. It would have been unfair to both of us. Despite spending the rest of the evening mentally replaying the situation, he was still unsure what to do. He knew he needed to talk to Lydia, but he wasn't sure what to say. All he knew was that he wanted her to return home so he could make things right. Adam, who was emotionally drained, was tired but determined not to sleep until Lydia returned home. After another hour of waiting, he finally lay down on the sofa and quickly fell asleep. The sound of the door opening startled him awake shortly after midnight. As he sat up, groggy Lydia entered the living room, glaring at him with her hands on her hips. "Lydia, we really have to. I don't want to discuss this right now," she interrupted abruptly. "You can stay on the couch tonight and we'll talk about it in the morning." Without awaiting a response, she turned and walked down the hallway to their bedroom. When he heard the door slam, he sighed and returned to the sofa, hoping to fall back asleep. It took a long time. Adam usually got up early to get to the office before everyone else. Although his internal clock woke him at the usual time, he decided to wait for Lydia to emerge so they could talk. He brewed a pot of coffee and sat down with his laptop to read the news. While waiting, Lydia didn't enter the kitchen until almost 8:00, pulling her suitcase behind her. Adam expressed surprise and asked, "Where are you going, Lydia?" "I thought we'd go before you could finish." She raised her hand to stop him. "This has come as a huge shock, Adam. It makes me question our entire marriage. I need some alone time to process what happened as spring break begins. Tomorrow I'm going to drive to Florida to see my mom." She glared at him angrily. "I intended to stay there all week and return in time for class the following Monday. I would prefer not to hear from you while I am away. I need this time to myself. Do not call me. Do not call my mother. Please do not call my mother's house. Do you understand?" He nodded, feeling helpless. "I mean it, Adam. If you call, I may not respond at all." "Got it." He nodded again. "Fine," she said flatly and walked out the door, dragging her suitcase with her. After she left, Adam sat there stunned for a few minutes. He eventually went into the bathroom to shave and change clothes. Then he drove gloomily to work. When he got to the office, there was some good news. His foreman had taken the initiative to move the missing components to their proper locations on the production line, and testing was going well. "In contrast to my marriage, the business is not currently in disarray," Adam thought to himself with a hint of regretful acceptance. That afternoon, he was working on a spreadsheet when his phone rang. It was Hilda calling. "I was concerned about you and wanted to check in. How did things go with Lydia last night?" "Oh, it's a long and sad story," he said, sounding depressed. "Oh, that does not sound good. Would you like to meet up for a drink and discuss it?" "That would be wonderful." "Hilda, same place." "Okay." He checked his email again before leaving, but there was still no new message from a close friend. When he walked into the bar, Hilda immediately noticed the dark circles beneath his eyes. "Oh, Adam, you don't look like you got much sleep. What happened?" He took a big gulp of his beer and began explaining the previous night's argument as well as Lydia's departure the next morning. Hilda listened with a combination of sadness and regret. "Oh, Adam, I feel terrible. You followed my advice, which turned out to be the wrong decision." "No, Hilda, I thought about it a lot and still believe it was the only option. I didn't expect Lydia to be so angry, but I could simply ignore that email and pretend nothing was wrong. Now all I can do is hope she calms down and we can work things out when she returns." "That is nice of you to say, Adam, but I still feel responsible for what happened. So what are your plans for the remainder of the week?" "I am not sure, Hilda. I don't see how Lydia and I can move forward without discussing what happened. Maybe I'll wait a few days and then try calling her." "No, Adam, do not do that. She already believes you don't trust her. If you contact her after she has told you not to, it will only confirm her suspicions." "Yeah, I suppose you're correct, but I feel helpless. I'm not sure how to find out who sent that email. The only thing I can do while she's gone is try to figure out who Professor Bellingham is." "That is a good idea. If you can locate him, he may be able to explain things." Adam spent the next few days investigating the anonymous email but made no progress. He then considered the possibility that Bellingham was an alumnist rather than a faculty member. He called the Alumni Relations Office, but there was no record of Bellingham. Frustrated, Adam went to the Graduate School of Business during spring break and found it nearly empty. He inquired about Professor Bellingham until an assistant dean threatened to notify campus security, forcing him to leave. Adam was at a loss in his office until he received a call from Dr. Avery Mayfair, a Graduate School of Business faculty member. Dr. Mayfair offered to help and inquired as to why Adam was looking for a nom. Adam, desperate, briefly described his situation. Dr. Mayfair listened thoughtfully. "I understand now. I overheard your questions at school today, and the way you asked them led me to believe that something like this was already happening. I can confirm that Bellingham was an adjunct professor here 2 years ago. He was an excellent teacher, but his class did not have enough students, so his course was cancelled and his contract was not renewed." "I see," Adam replied. "Does this imply that there is more?" Dr. Mayfair added, "I heard from Professor Bellingham at the beginning of the school year. He informed me that he had found a job at Black Hill State University in South Dakota." "He's in South Dakota?" Adam asked, surprised. "Yes," Dr. Mayfair confirmed. Bellingham also mentioned in the letter that he had recently married his longtime partner, Harold. "So Bellingham is exact, Dr. Mayfair. Thank you for the call. I still don't understand why someone sent me such a deceptive email, but I'm certain it was false. I hope to put your mind at ease. Can I ask you one more thing? Why did you contact me? I am grateful, but I am still a stranger to you." The professor's tone softened. "I do not mind explaining. I had a similar experience years ago. My wife left me for someone else, so I understand how you may feel. I was happy to assist you and clear this up, but if the accusation had been true, I would not have hesitated to inform you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your assistance." That evening, Adam called Hilda to tell her the good news. "I'm still not sure who is trying to ruin my marriage, but I'm confident Lydia isn't cheating on Professor Bellingham. Are you certain you can trust Dr. Mayfair?" "Yes, absolutely. After the call I looked him up and discovered he was on the business school faculty. He's an older man, possibly in his 60s, who appears to be well regarded. I also checked the Black Hills website and Belling is listed there." "That's great to hear. Adam, you must be relieved." "Yes, I do, but now I don't know what to say to Lydia when she returns." "That is simple. Adam. Lydia, according to what you told me, did not give you much of an opportunity to explain yourself when she gets home. Tell her that you never doubted her. Explain that you found out about Bellingham immediately and looked him up after receiving the email. You didn't get to talk because she reacted so strongly. If you handle it well, she will eventually apologize to you." "I'm not sure, Hilda. That is not exactly what happened." She appeared to be smiling. "Come on, Adam. Is it really so bad to stretch the truth a little to get your way?" Lydia surprised Hilda with a phone call on Sunday just before returning to town. "Hey, I wanted to check in before I returned home. Do you know how Adam's doing? I'm nervous about what I'll find when I arrive." "Just so. You know you owe me a lot of money for everything I did while you were away. With a little help from me and some luck, you'll be able to return to your husband with your marriage in better shape than ever." Hilda then describes the week's events, including Adam's discovery of Bellingham. "If you handle things correctly, when you return home, you and Adam will both apologize to each other and everything will return to normal." There was a brief silence. "What if I don't want things to return to normal?" "I don't understand, Lydia. What exactly are you trying to say?" "I had a fantastic time this week. Carl. The person I've been seeing is a lot of fun." Lydia spoke with a deeper tone, and he's an amazing lover. "I haven't experienced this many peaks in years. I am not ready for this to end. I want to keep seeing him until the semester is over. You've got to help me, Hilda." "Lydia. You've already taken a significant risk by dating this guy for a week. If you try to continue the affair here, you're taking a big risk maybe, but you have to admit that your plan worked perfectly. I'm sure you can figure out a way for me to continue seeing him, please, Hilda. He's truly amazing. I had a feeling something like this would occur." There was a pause. All right, Hilda replied. Slowly. I can devise a strategy for you, but you must understand that doing so will jeopardize your marriage to Adam. He's a good guy who works hard, is loyal and values his family. Men like him do not come by often. Are you certain you want to risk everything just for fun? Lydia laughed. You got me. I can make a plan. Okay, but remember what I told you. Here's what you should do. You still have the email account you set up? Yes, you instructed me to keep it active. Great, you should send another email from a good friend, this time send it to yourself, to your regular email. All right, what should the new email convey? Make it similar to the previous one, but this time say Adam is having an affair with me. What? But this is not true. Adam knows this. How will this help? It's simple. The first email accuses you of cheating. Adam discovered you couldn't be unfaithful to Professor Bellingham, but he might still have reservations about you. Wait, Hilda, you mentioned that the Bellingham email would clear me with Carl, and it did, but once Adam receives the second email, he will have no more doubts. He already knows you weren't having an affair with Bellingham and he understands I am not involved with him. Clearly, a good friend is lying, and Adam will no longer doubt you. That way he can do pretty much anything without raising his suspicions. The call was paused. Lydia exclaimed excitedly. Hilda, you are brilliant. I'm not sure how you come up with these ideas, but you just gave me a free pass until the end of the semester. Lydia, there are just 2 more things. First, make sure Adam informs me about the second email. Why would he do that? Because it helps me demonstrate that you are trustworthy and this enigmatic friend is not. That's an excellent idea. Adam. Value your opinion, so we will take it seriously. What is the second thing? After you send the email to yourself, log out of your good friend account. You do not want Adam to stumble upon it. Oh no, I don't want that. Actually, it's best to log out of both email accounts when you're not using them. You do not want Adam to find any messages from Carl. I told Carl not to email me, but your advice is still valid. It's better to be cautious. When Adam returned home from work that evening, he was concerned because Lydia had been crying. Everything had been going well between them since she returned from Florida. So seeing her upset was surprising. What is wrong? What happened? He asked urgently as he approached her. Oh, Adam, this is happening again. She sobbed and handed him a copy of the email. Damn it, he said. After reading the accusatory message. You realize this isn't true, right? Of course, Adam, I know you will never cheat on me, just as I would never cheat on you, and even if you did, I am confident it would not be with Hilda. She's been a great friend to both of us. She would not do something like this. Damn it, someone is still attempting to create problems for us and I don't know who or why. There must be a way to track these emails. She gave him an uncertain look. Will you tell Hilda about this? Do you believe I should? Yes, I believe you need to. She's now involved and it wouldn't be appropriate not to inform her. Hilda responded warmly to Adam's call the next morning. How are you two lovebirds doing today? Adam's tone was serious. We're fine, Hilda, but something new has come up that I need to talk about with you. Can we meet after work? Actually, I am working from home this afternoon. Could you come to my apartment instead? That works for me. I'll be there between 63 and 7. Hilda opened the door that evening. She noticed Adam looked serious. What is wrong? Adam. I've been worried. Since you called. He shakes his head. I'm sorry, Hilda, but it appears that you've become involved in this mess with Lydia and me. Hilda looked puzzled, so Adam handed her the most recent email. After reading it, she looked at Adam frustrated. This is absurd. We aren't having an affair. I'd never do that to Lydia. Adam said I hope she knows that she does. She told me the same thing. Hilda shook her head confused. I'm glad she understands that. So what do you think is going on? I believe someone is working hard to cause problems between Lydia and me. First it was Professor Bellingham's warning, and now this. The only thing I can think of is that I might have an enemy, perhaps a business rival, but I'm not sure who it could be. Lydia, and I decided to inform you that you are now involved. She nodded. I'm glad you told me. Adam, you're always very considerate, but I'm not sure what we can do about it. Unless the person responsible makes a mistake or does something obvious. I don't believe involving the police would help. I agree, Hilda. It's very frustrating. I just want this whole mess to be over and whoever is behind it to stop bothering us. How is Lydia handling all of this? She's quite shaken up. When I arrived home, she was crying. I am not surprised, especially given the trouble the first email caused Adam. Listen, Lydia is probably very stressed right now, and with graduation approaching, she is probably feeling overwhelmed. You must take extra care of her. Do you believe we should block all emails from that account? That may not be a good idea. If more emails arrive, you'd like to know about them. Yeah, you're correct, but how do I keep Lydia safe from the start? If you receive another email, do not tell her about it right away. Additionally, you should check her email on her laptop whenever possible. If she receives another email, forward it to yourself before she reads it. This way, you can handle the situation without worrying her. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. He stood up. I'm sorry you've had to deal with all of this. Don't worry if that's how you're apologizing. I genuinely care about you and want to assist you in any way possible. He smiled with gratitude. I should get home and check on Lydia. He began to leave but then returned to hug and kiss Hilda on the cheek. Thank you for being such a good friend. Your support means a lot to me. When Adam returned home, he was pleased to see Lydia in a much better mood. The next morning, she was even more cheerful, getting up early to join him for breakfast. This is a pleasant surprise. Lydia, I usually don't get to see you before I go to work. I didn't want you to leave this morning without hearing that I love you. She said this while kissing him. And by the way, she said I'm attending a lecture on campus tonight. I'll probably be home late because a few of the girls and I are going out to dinner afterward. That is fine, Lydia. We have lots of leftovers in the fridge, so I can eat here. Thank you, honey. I'll probably come home after class to drop off my belongings and change. If I don't see you, have a nice evening. Lydia would be out. Adam stayed late in the office. Things were finally beginning to improve in the business. A major potential client expressed strong interest in the new product samples and Adam hoped they would place a trial order. At the very least. Things are going well now. If only I could figure out who's interfering with our emails. He was still thinking about his mysterious good friend when he got home. As he walked towards the bedroom, he noticed Lydia's laptop on the table. It appears she didn't need it for her lecture. He then remembered Hilda's suggestion. I should see if she is still logged into her email. If she is, I'd like to see if she has received any new messages from that creep. As soon as he opened the laptop, it powered up. There was no email page open, so he clicked on the Gmail link to see if she was signed. In a window appeared asking him to select an account. He saw Lydia's email, but she had logged out, so he started closing Gmail before he could react. He noticed another account listed below her regular email, and when he looked closer, he was astounded. The account name was that of a good friend. What the heck? He exclaimed. While staring at the screen, he tried to open it, but Google asked for a password which he did not know. He closed the tab and sat down to process what he had just seen. How could she have an email address with that name? I know Gmail does not allow duplicate usernames. Lydia must be behind those emails. Why would she do that? Why would she send an anonymous email to me, accusing herself of cheating? It didn't take long before the answer hit him. It must have been a diversion. She wanted me to waste time pursuing a gay professor in South Dakota because she is actually cheating on someone else. Then another thought hit him hard: her trip to Florida. When I showed her the email, she became very upset and said she needed to go see her mother and get away from me. Now I'm wondering if she even saw her mother. He quickly pulled out his phone and called his mother-in-law. After some small talk, he asked if Lydia and I were planning to visit next month. Would that be too soon for you? Is it too soon? I haven't seen you two in ages. Please arrive whenever you can. He clenched his teeth, frustrated. Great. We'll let you know once we have a firm date. He swore to himself after hanging up the phone call. Damn it, Lydia's true whereabouts remain unknown. More importantly, who she went with, son of a witch. Then he remembered Lydia's latest email. What was that about? Damn, there must have been another distraction to keep me from noticing what she was up to. Like attending lectures with her girlfriends, that sneaky, dishonest jerk, he began to wonder what she was wearing. As she left for the evening, he dashed into their bedroom and began rummaging through Lydia's lingerie. It was difficult for him to remember everything she owned and he nearly gave up, but a sudden suspicion struck him, so he looked for one more item: her guitar belt. It was missing. Frustrated, he searched for the matching underwear set, but it was also gone. After going out to dinner with her girlfriends, he returned to the kitchen table to reflect. So you enjoy tricks and lies? Well, I can play that game too. He was still furious when Lydia returned home after midnight, but he pretended to be sleeping as she quietly entered the bedroom. When he heard the shower running, he had to hold back the urge to confront her. Who knew attending a lecture could be so sweaty? He mused bitterly. The next morning, Adam awoke early and left for work. Before Lydia was awake, he left a note near the coffee pot for her. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. Last night I had to go in early for a meeting and may be late tonight, so don't wait for me. Adam had a busy day, but he did not meet with clients or suppliers. He went shopping during lunch and then returned home to make a few preparations. He had 2 additional appointments in the afternoon. After finishing, he went out for dinner and a movie to kill time. When he arrived home, Lydia was already asleep, so he carefully climbed into bed without waking her. Lydia was surprised to wake up the next morning to find Adam waiting for her. I assumed you'd already gone to work, she said, gratefully accepting the coffee he handed her. I wanted to make sure I saw you before my flight to Detroit at noon. I'll be gone for a few days meeting with potential clients. This is new. You don't travel very often. When do you think you will be back at the earliest? Not until Friday evening, and if all goes well, I might stay until Saturday morning. Will you be okay while I'm gone? She gave him a cheerful smile. Do not worry about me. I am sure I will find something to do while you are away. All right, just make sure to stay away from our good friend while I'm away. Her expression became serious. That is not funny, Adam. Sorry, you are correct. It is not funny. He waved goodbye, grabbed his suitcase and went to his car. He frowned as he drove away. She hadn't even noticed. I did not say I loved you. I bet she's already making plans to see her lover again now. I just need to make sure they meet at our house instead of the airport. Adam drove to the university at lunchtime. He parked away from campus and changed into jeans and a hoodie. Carrying a cheap backpack to the business school library. He hid behind a magazine rack, lit a string of firecrackers and threw them into a metal container. He then opened a door with his backpack and went outside. He called campus security from a burner phone, falsely reporting an active shooter in the business school. As the firecrackers exploded, he ended the call and fled the campus amid the chaos. Adam parked discreetly in his neighborhood and observed from a distance. An hour later he saw his wife come home, followed by another man. He then drove to the motel where he'd reserved a room. That night, he confirmed that the second car was still in his driveway before returning to the motel to rest. When Lydia and Carl left the house the next morning, they were surprised to see Adam leaning against Carl's car door. Oh my God, Carl, it's my husband. Lydia exclaimed as she recognized him. I thought you were in Detroit. She said it, then realized how it sounded. Honey, this isn't what it seems. Carl has just stopped by. That's enough, Lydia. Everything you say is a lie. I do not want to hear any more. Adam grimaced and pointed at them. This is exactly what it looks like. I know you both spent the night here and I recorded everything you did and said. So just listen. He took out a manila envelope and shoved it toward her. I'm filing for divorce because of your affair. The envelope contains my lawyer's contact information. Get your own lawyer and have him contact mine, but don't try to contact me because after what you've done, I never want to see or speak with you again. No, honey, do not say that it was simply a mistake. This is a one-time thing. This is something we can fix. I promise, he shouted. Stop lying. It is not a one-time thing. You have been with him for weeks and it was not a mistake. You had everything planned out. I know you sent that email to distract me, so you could spend your spring break with him. By the way, your mother has been wondering why you have not visited her. I suppose you were so preoccupied with this guy. He said, pointing to Carl, that you didn't even go see her. He then focused his attention on Carl. Oh, I almost forgot. Adam quickly took several photos of Carl using his cell phone. Carl scowled, clenched his fists and made a threatening move toward. Adam quickly reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out the magnum. I wouldn't do that if I were you. He stated calmly. I don't want to ruin my life by ending you, but I'd be willing to use this in self-defense if necessary. Well, whoa. Carl said, raising his hands and stepping back. Adam turned to Lydia with a sneer. It appears that your boyfriend is a lover rather than a fighter. His voice then became cold and harsh. Take what you need from the house and leave. I intended what I said. I don't want to see you again, Adam, please. She cried. I never wanted it to end this way, ignoring her. He walked to his car while she sat on the driveway crying into her hands on his way to work. Adam came across a dumpster and threw the burner phone and toy magnum he had in his pocket into it. I'm glad they make these things appear so real, he said with a bitter laugh back at his desk. Adam used his cell phone to send an email containing one of the photographs he had taken. To his surprise, he received a call back only minutes later. This is Dr. Mayfair, did you just send me a photograph? Yes, Dr. Mayfair, sorry for bothering you again, but do you recognize the man in the photo? I believe his first name is Carl, is the woman next to him, your wife, my soon-to-be ex-wife. She's an extremely attractive woman. I believe she attended one of my classes last year. I recognized the man beside her. His name is Carl Mannheim. Carl Mannheim is one of my advisory clients. That is helpful, Doctor. I have some issues to settle with Mr. Mannheim, so he was the one who messed up your situation. Yes, in a way, but my Eve was not entirely innocent. I see, that is interesting. I'm glad I could help. However, I'm sorry things did not turn out as you had hoped. Thank you, Doctor. I sincerely appreciate your time and assistance, even if things did not go as expected. Good luck and don't lose hope. Things usually work out for the better. Trust me. I've been through it and come out fine. Adam was furious 2 months later as he sat in the office of his lawyer. Have you heard from Lydia's lawyer yet? What is the current status of the divorce? Yes, I talked with Hannah Monroe yesterday. She sent Lydia's counterproposal. Today, the good news is that Lydia is no longer contesting her divorce. After Hannah heard the recordings, you made it your home. She persuaded Lydia not to risk having those played in court. The bad news is that Lydia has accepted the end of their marriage. She is determined to get as much money from you as possible. Damn, she lies and cheats on me, and now she expects me to compensate her for the trouble. It's simply not fair. So what does she want from me? Usually I would expect a request to divide all of your assets. There isn't much to split here, though. You're renting your place, you do not have a retirement plan, and your savings are minimal. Your only asset is a business that is losing money. It appears she is betting on its failure, so she's just asking for alimony." Adam replied sarcastically. "I'm really touched by her confidence in me. How much does she want in alimony?" "Much more than we suggested." The lawyer gave Adam a document. Adam was taken aback by what he saw. "This is outrageous. She understands I can't afford it. If I have to pay that much each month, I'll have to sell off my business to cover the costs." Lydia is not willing to negotiate. That is what Hannah will ask Judge Abe for. "I am not going to hand over that much money without a fight. We will have to see what happens in court." "Okay, Adam, I understand your frustration. Remember, Judge Abe has complete authority. What he decides will be final." About a month later, Adam sat nervously in the courtroom as both lawyers presented their arguments. Judge Abe had asked for a break. "How do you think this is going?" Adam asked his lawyer quietly. "I'm not sure, it could go either way, and the judge might suggest a compromise." Judge Abe returned to the courtroom seconds later, and they were instructed to stand. They took their seats again. The judge directed the attorneys to approach the bench. "I assume neither side has changed their position on the financial settlement." Both lawyers exchanged looks. "No, Your Honor, all right. Before I make my decision, I'd like to ask Mrs. Wetherby some questions." Hannah Monroe appeared surprised, but then smiled and motioned Lydia to step forward. "It will be fine," she whispered to Lydia. "Please remember to address him as Your Honor." Adam's lawyer sat down and leaned toward him. When the judge requests more information from the opposing party, it is usually a bad sign. Adam watched frustrated as his soon-to-be ex-wife took the stand. Her suit was modestly cut, yet tailored to highlight her figure. He noticed the judge watching Lydia and muttered, "I think we're in trouble," to his attorney. The judge reviewed the documents in front of him before addressing Lydia in the witness box. "Mrs. Wetherby, it appears that the only issue between you two is the amount of alimony. Your proposal is significantly higher than what your husband has offered." "Yes, Your Honor, and why are you asking for the higher amount?" "We are requesting a higher amount due to the length of our marriage, and Your Honor, I will be starting over from scratch." "I understand. However, Mr. Wetherby claims that his sole source of income is his business, which is currently losing money. Why do you think he can afford the alimony you are asking for, Your Honor?" "We believe Adam has intentionally reduced his reported income by investing more in his business. He could easily afford the alimony I'm requesting if he reduced his business investments. The audited financial statement reveals that the business is losing money." "Your Honor, Adams. Accountants can manipulate the numbers to produce whatever results they want." The judge raised his eyebrows. "Are you suggesting that the financial statements have been falsified?" Lydia's lawyer appeared alarmed and shook her head firmly. Lydia quickly added, "No, Your Honor, not all. It's just that earnings can be delayed and investments increased. While adhering to accounting rules, he simply invests too much money in his business." Adam could feel his anger rising. He leaned over and angrily whispered, "What a liar she knows. It's not true. She's just trying to get as much for me as she can, regardless of the consequences." Meanwhile, Judge Abernathy was reviewing the case summary. "Mrs. Wetherby, we've mostly discussed your husband's business investments. It appears that he has also invested in you, or at least your education. If you're talking about my MBA, Your Honor, Adam did pay for my tuition, but I did all of the hard work. I've studied day and night for the past 2 years, including last summer, and you have just graduated, correct?" "Yes, sir, I graduated with honors." She spoke with pride. The judge nodded. "Okay, Mrs. Wetherby, you can sit down now." Lydia returned to her attorney's side and Judge Abernathy adjusted his glasses to look at both parties. Based on the evidence, I'm going to give Mrs. Wetherby the entire amount of financial assistance she requested. Adam grimaced as Lydia leaned in and hugged her lawyer. However, the judge continued. This financial settlement will provide Mrs. Wetherby with enough monthly support to allow her to live comfortably without working for the foreseeable future. However, now that she has an advanced degree, she should be able to find a good job. I am only paying her alimony for 6 months to encourage her to use her education 6 months. You cannot do this, Lydia yelled. I can, and have. The judge reacted harshly. He then struck the gavel on the block. The next case. Lydia's attorney quickly pulled her away from the judge, even as she continued to argue about the decision. She finally paused when a large bailiff appeared. I only need to pay alimony for 6 months, as they prepared to leave the courtroom. Adam told his lawyer. I can handle that. How about that? His lawyer replied, sounding pleased. I thought we'd lose when the judge agreed to her demand, but it appears he wasn't impressed with how she was trying to drain you. Not many husbands do so well in divorce court. I'm curious why he took it so easy on you. Do you think the fact that she did not contest the adultery charge played a role? That is not something the judge should consider when deciding on a financial settlement. Adam smiled as he saw Lydia still arguing with her attorney. So whatever the reason, I'm pleased with the outcome. Just then Adam's arm was grabbed and he turned to see an older man he didn't recognize but who appeared vaguely familiar. I wanted to introduce myself. The gray-haired man introduced himself as Professor Mayfair. Adam shook his hand firmly. It's a surprise to meet you in person, Professor. Thank you again for all your assistance. What are you doing here today? The old man smiled. Following our conversation, I became interested in your case and decided to come see how it ended. It also allowed me to chat with an old friend, Judge Abe. He shook Adam's hand again. I'm glad everything worked out for you. If you require any further assistance, please let me know. He winked. We divorced men need to support one another. The professor walked away. Adam watched him leave thinking. I wonder. He shook his head from the corner of his eye. He thought he saw Hilda in the crowd, but when he looked closely, she was gone. Lydia dialed a familiar number on her cell phone 30 months later, and when the caller answered, she nervously said, "Hello, Hilda, it's Lydia." What a surprise. I have not heard from you since your move to Florida. How have you been? Honestly, it's been a difficult few years. That is actually why I am calling. I needed to hear a friendly voice. Of course. What's happening? Are you working right now? That is part of the problem. I thought getting an MBA would make it easier to find a good job, but down here, employers value experience over degrees. The majority of the positions I was offered were internships or trainee roles. Oh, that sounds frustrating. So what are you doing now? After the alimony stopped, I became desperate. I even took a job as an administrative assistant, which was terrible. Now I'm pursuing a new career in financial counseling. That's exactly why I called. If you are interested, I would be happy to review your financial situation. Many people overlook such things. There was a brief pause. Lydia, I would love to help you, but my finances are in good shape right now and I'm optimistic about the future. I don't really need any assistance. Sorry, that is okay, Hilda. I've heard that a lot, so I thought I'd ask. This industry is difficult to break into. I had to move in with my mother to save money. You're living with your mother. What happened between you and Carl? Do not even mention Jerk's name. We broke up only a few months after moving here. I broke up. What happened? Oh, Hilda, it was terrible. Carl dropped out of school before completing his MBA. His advisor rejected his thesis and told him he needed to start over. Carl became very resentful and decided not to return. He refused to get a job and spent his days playing video games and drinking. He eventually became angry with me. It became so bad that I had to call the cops on him. Oh, Lydia, that sounds horrible. You're probably better off without him, and on the bright side, you're now free to meet new people, go out and have as much fun as you always wanted. I remember how much you missed that when you were married. Lydia. Sigh, going to clubs and parties costs money, Hilda, and I don't have much money these days. To be honest, my outings aren't as glamorous or enjoyable as I had hoped. I remember a friend telling me that there are far more losers than good guys out there. Lydia paused, and when Hilda didn't respond, she changed the subject. But how about Hilda? How are you? Are you currently seeing anyone special? Actually, Lydia, things have changed dramatically for me. I'm getting married next month, married. That is amazing. Who is the lucky guy? Do I know him? Yes, you do. It's Adam. Adam and I are engaged. My Adam. You are marrying my Adam. That's not correct. I'm afraid it is. We are holding a small ceremony in the backyard of our new home. We then flew to Paris for our honeymoon. New house honeymoon in Paris. Adam cannot possibly afford that. My situation is not the only one that has shifted dramatically. So Adam was born in the same month that you moved to Florida. He finally received the large order he had been chasing. His business took off after that. His new product is precisely what the automotive industry required. Furthermore, earlier this year, Adam received a large offer from a major manufacturer to buy his company. He accepted, and the transaction is set to close next week, so you don't have to be concerned about our financial future. Lydia could only stammer, but Hilda persisted, her tone becoming sharper. Lydia, all of that could have been yours if you were content with what you had. I warned you from the start that your affair would put everything at risk. I also warned you that if your marriage failed, there would be women waiting to take advantage. But you were the one who encouraged me. You are the one who helped me with the Lydia's voice rose with shock. Oh my God, Hilda, it was you planned the entire thing from the beginning. I just mentioned a minor fantasy and you manipulated me into acting on it. You duped me into believing I could have an affair without repercussions. Lydia, I really mean it, you are overreacting. I did not make you do anything. You did not want to. I've just given you enough rope to hang yourself. I cannot believe this. You must have been the one to tell Adam about Carl. Lydia. You're smarter than that. Think about it. If I had told Adam, he would have questioned how I knew. That would not have been very smart. I advised you not to delete your secret Gmail account, and I suggested Adam check his email. I used Gmail all the time, so I was confident he would see what I expected. So, Lydia, no, I did not tell Adam about your affair. I simply set things up, so they turned out the way I wanted. I cannot believe this. I trusted you, Hilda. I thought you were my friend. Hilda laughed. You know what they say. All is fair in love and war. You will not get away with this nasty woman. I'll make sure Adam knows what you did and how manipulative you are. He will definitely cancel the wedding once he learns the truth. I'm sorry, Lydia, but I need to end our conversation now. Adam and I have plans tonight, and I want to look my best for him, and do not bother calling back. I'll block your number as soon as we hang up. You're a deceitful, backstabbing witch. After 30 months and 1 day, Hilda greeted Adam with a loving kiss. When he returned from work, Adam kissed her back before pulling out a piece of paper from his jacket. You will not believe who emailed me today, Lydia. Oh seriously, Hilda spoke casually. I had almost forgotten about her. What does she want now? Adam looked at his fiancée without emotion. She wrote to warn me about you. She claims you planned everything to separate Lydia and me. It's beautiful out there. Can I see it? Hilda asked. He handed her the printout. She quickly read it and handed it back with a smile. Lydia is a poor person. She could have made her jealous story seem more credible if she had done one more thing. He looked at her with curiosity. She winked at him. She should have signed it a good friend. It took him a few minutes to stop laughing. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode of the story, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to get notifications for updates.